Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cyber Voices, the official podcast of the Australian Information Security Association, otherwise known as AISA. I'm your host, as always, David Willett, and it is my pleasure to have you with us as we explore the diverse voices of the Australian cyber industry. Well, welcome back to Cyber Voices, coming to you live backstage at CyberCon Canberra 2025. I love saying that, by the way. I've always kind of wanted to be like, oh, it's like a VIP experience. We've got Ella Donnell from the University of Queensland, Change and Communications Manager for Cybersecurity. Ella, so you've given a talk this morning, not long before coming in. What was the talk called?
So the talk is 3 tips for successful tabletops. So pretty much breaking down, what a tabletop is, firstly, for people that, are a bit uninitiated, and giving a bit of context as to my experience in running tabletops and how I run them. And then giving a couple of tips for how to run a successful tabletop and, things to focus on, I guess, particularly if you haven't run them before. It was received really well. What I really like doing when I give a presentation is to make it, short, sharp, to the point, making sure I have my message out there and giving plenty of time for questions.
Yeah, of course.
The questions are really great. I had some questions from someone who runs tabletops through the organisation he works for in South Africa, and he runs them, pretty much over the whole continent there, and lots remotely as well. And I don't have much experience in running them fully remotely. Most of mine are run in person. So it was great to hear what his thoughts were. Yeah.
Okay. Are you leading the tabletops at University of Queensland? Is it your baby?
Yeah. So I do the whole process. So I come up with the idea. I then verify it with the relevant subject matter expert.
Of course.
Usually someone from our operations centre, because, you don't want to get there on the day and it's all wrong.
Yes.
Then I write the injects and deliver it, and then also do a debrief, so a discussion where we gather everyone's impressions as to what the key takeaways were.
Yep.
And then I write the after action report as well.
It's something everyone's really leaning into over the last few years. Everyone's trying to be prepared and put themselves in that uncomfortable position, but under controlled circumstances. I guess the obvious question is, Ella, what are the 3 successful tips?
I have lots of other points in my presentation as well, but really the 3 tips I wanted to hone in on: having smart aims and objectives. So really making sure that you have a very clear idea as to what you are trying to achieve in your tabletop and what you want people to take away from it, and making those as specific as possible, because then people have a very clear idea about what to take away from it. And also, your audience. And that really brings me to my second tip, which is, having a clear scope. I find that having a clear scope is really helpful. It gives you a very clear idea about what you're testing and who you're testing it for, and then what you're achieving. And then my third one is, it's not a test. And I like to say that is true for both the participants and myself as a facilitator, or, anyone else that's facilitating. The focus is not just on testing potential vulnerabilities or testing out a new procedure or process. It's building those relationships and having those conversations that I think are a real benefit as well. So, yeah.
So on that last point, why do you think it's so important for people to know that it's not a test?
I think people tend to get bogged down in the minutiae, and I think that with tabletops, it's not about showing who's got the most technical knowledge or who's the most powerful in the room. I think it's about, again, getting out of your usual work patterns, being able to step away and into a setting where you have those open conversations, because people, tabletop I usually run for about 2 hours a session. And usually people in their work don't get 2 hours to talk through the intricacies of how they do something and, how it can be improved.
And I actually had someone else in here earlier in the day from SA Power Networks talking about a very similar topic and how he runs those there as well. And, we were talking about just how important it is to lean in and be prepared to fail, because in a test you want to pass, and it's actually quite okay to fail in this, we'll use the word simulation, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think there are no right or wrong answers in these instances, in these exercises. It's about what opportunities are raised and what can you do as a result.
What do you think is one of the more challenging of your 3 tips for people to get their heads around?
Oh, that's a really good question. Look, I think the clear scope can be quite difficult.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's lots of things that people want to test, and there's also lots of knowledge that people want to show, which feeds into, I guess, the not a test being challenging as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're with a very technical group of people, it's really understandable. People will want to get stuck on the minutiae and the technical details of it because they've got that knowledge, and obviously they want to use it.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, as I said, it's not necessarily the most valuable thing about the exercise. That's the building the connection. Yeah.
Some people do you think egos can get in the way a little bit too? Because the report on the test can often go up to, in this case, the university council or the board of an organisation.
Yeah.
And some people may feel like a little exposed, I guess.
Yeah, and it's thankfully not an issue I've had to deal with as much, but
That's
definitely, I have a wonderful team, and everyone's really collaborative and fantastic to work with. But yeah, definitely, if we're talking about how the outcomes of these exercises can be used to drive funding and things like that, you could find that maybe people's insecurities or maybe people's past history with how things were done may influence and get in the way. Yeah.
Interesting. How often are you running your exercises at the University of Queensland, and with which audiences?
So I run two kinds of exercises: technical tabletops, which are between my operations centre at the university and anyone else that's a relevant stakeholder in that case. And they're focused on the technical detail, the escalations, etc. Again, as the title says, more on the technical details. While for my other kind is executive tabletops. So the technical ones are run quarterly. So I have a pretty regular calendar that I work at, the previous year and then circulate that. So we have a pretty set timeline for those. The executive tabletops, on the other hand, are only run once a year, and they are for an executive audience, focusing more on their awareness of certain scenarios, potential to drive funding, less on the technical detail, more about the decision making and where things go.
What's one of the hardest parts of your job? Because it's quite interesting to have someone dedicated within an organisation to run this program. There are some differing views, right? There's a lot of companies who are probably here at CyberCon today who will happily run it for you for the right price.
Yeah, so tabletops aren't my primary responsibility. It's in addition to my work as a change and communications manager.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely challenging to, juggle lots of balls in terms of working on projects and working on our general awareness work that we need to put out there about things that are going around the university. In addition to tabletops. But I think that's really why they fit so neatly together. They really go hand in hand in terms of the change management and awareness and finding where these gaps exist in terms of running these tabletops and looking at how that change can be implemented.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. It's quite interesting to hear the university has lent into having someone included that as a part of their role, is to having that responsibility. Do you ever seek any external help in terms of forming the actual exercises or facilitating them, or is it purely you?
No, just me. So yeah, as I said, I have a really supportive team. So typically with the technical tabletops, someone who's usually nominated by my manager will be a SME.
Yeah.
So they'll be the person that, I verify the injects with to again make sure that, they're truthful and accurate and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been in that situation before where someone's trying to can you help me make this as believable as it can possibly be?
Well, no, it's really good. And it's really good experience as well, because I guess for the analyst as well, it's looking at how to communicate about certain things and certain ideas that are very innate to them, but maybe not very innate to a more, an audience outside of their team or, outside of IT or cyber.
And so when you're actually in the thick of a tabletop, you've already talked about some of the stuff that works really well, but what are some of the other important lessons, the other points that you were talking about from your talk this morning that you've learned over your time doing this?
I really think, emphasizing the fact that it's not a test. I like to liken it to a sports drill. So we're practicing the skills necessary for doing something that on the day that it is needed.
Yeah.
So it's providing that training ground and that safe space to build those relationships. And I think aside from the takeaways that go into improving security, those things are really what's important again, particularly in terms of that cross-team conversation. Usually people are very busy in their day-to-day work, so they don't have much of an opportunity to get down and, discuss how do we communicate? What's the best way to communicate? I think that's been really a fantastic business.
And what was the reception to the talk like? Or what kind of questions were you getting?
I love leaving time for lots of questions because that's when you get to hear other people's experiences. So, no, I got lots of questions from someone who's been tasked with running tabletops at a small organization and hasn't run them before, from someone that has experience running tabletops that lean more into the very real life simulation instead of just the discussion aspect than I do, which is, something I would love to do, but is unfortunately even more labor intensive than the ones that I do. So that was really interesting. And then again, someone that had experience running them on a larger scale internationally. So again, I think that's really the benefit of coming to something like this is you get that open dialogue. Yeah.
Sort of beyond your 3 tips, there's probably a lot of organizations out there that may be coming into this for the first time, and maybe smaller organizations that don't have, someone like yourself who is experienced in this and has this as a part of their day-to-day role. What advice would you give to someone who's sort of starting out and doesn't really know where to begin?
Starting out, I would definitely advise them to look at, lots of the resources that exist online. So part of my talk, I point people towards the ASD's Exercise in a Box, so Australian Signals Directorate. They're great as a starting point to see what a tabletop and injects look like. So you can get some experience even in just the facilitation before you get to the element of the customization, starting from scratch and writing it yourself.
Yep.
So you can build confidence in that facilitation space. I think that's really important. So yeah, I would definitely encourage people to go check those out. Again, they're not tailored to their organization, but it's a great starting point to just get going. And also to join the ASD's cybersecurity partnership program.
Yep.
To access those resources in that space. I think that's really important. Yeah.
And you mentioned there, the different organizations and what have you. What are some of the elements that you think are unique to the higher education sector that you integrate into your tabletops?
I don't know if it's especially unique to higher education, but definitely a very broad range of people that may be involved in the scenario, whether that's students or administrative staff or academics or research staff. There's such a broad range of people that work at universities or,
Yep.
Involved in universities. So I think that's a challenge, such a broad landscape that universities have as well.
So what's next for you?
What's next?
Yeah.
More tabletops. I'm facilitating one that, I've written and prepared, and that is in about 2 weeks' time. So that'll be good. So from there onwards and upwards.
Okay. And from the sounds of it, we may be hearing more of your experiences at CyberCon Melbourne later in the year.
Yeah, definitely. As a result of being here, definitely very inspired to go and put together a submission. I've really enjoyed the experience of coming here. So not about tabletops, my presentation for Melbourne. It'll be about something different. But
All good. Oh well, I won't ask you to give away any spoilers. We'll keep that as a surprise for Melbourne. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing your unique perspectives to CyberCon here in Canberra. It's such a blessing to get such a diverse array of people from all over this country and internationally who come to visit us here and share their stories and their insights. So I won't hold you up any longer, but get out there, enjoy the rest of CyberCon Canberra, and thank you so much for sharing your voice with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cyber Voices. Our music is by Sanar Garut, our show artwork is by Studio Quarantine, and we record our show at This Is a Studio in Pran, Melbourne, part of Popplant Productions. Please make sure you follow the show on your podcast platform of choice and leave us a 5-star review. This will help others find the show. Also, please follow the association on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you want to add your voice to our ever-growing chorus of diverse cyber voices, have questions, feedback, or would like to be a sponsor, you can do so by emailing us at cybervoices@asa.org.au. That's cybervoices@aisa.org.au. Are you an ASA member? If not, you should consider joining our network of over 12,000 members across Australia. An ASA membership can open doors, build professional networks, create lifetime friendships, and offer exclusive training, events, and other perks. Become a member today by heading to our website at asa.org.au. That is all for today. I hope you will join us again next time on Cyber Voices.